This is INEC's final written address, and on page 5, INEC makes the following statement. In respect of the electronic transmission of the results to the first respondents, that's INEC's IREV, in real time for public viewing on the day of the election, the first respondent contends that whilst the presiding officers at the various polling units could capture the images or the image of the result sheets, that's forms EC8As, using the Beavers device, they could not transfer or transmit the image to the IREV portal due to the technical glitch that occurred on the e-transmission application hosted on the Amazon Web Services platform. Now, this is a technical lie because the Beavers themselves do not communicate with the IREV. The Beavers communicates with a database that is sitting on another server, and the IREV pulls information from that server. So there are two systems in place here. First system is the Beavers pushes the information through the internet to a server that is the backend that has the database application running. Then the IREV application is separate that references the backend application. So to say that the Beavers device could not transfer or transmit the image to the IREV portal due to technical glitch is actually technically wrong. Then the second one, which they actually said, is they said this technical glitch, which returned as an HTTP 500 error, was eventually resolved with various patches deployed on the application. This actually just proves that INEC rigged the election. This error, HTTP error 500, proves that INEC actually rigged the election. Let's look at what HTTP error 500 says. For those of us or those of you who have technical experience about what the implication of these errors are. Errors exist in technical terms, in computing terms, to give you an idea of what the problem is. There are several HTTP 500 level errors. Now, those errors indicate what particular problems or what is particularly wrong with the web server that is serving these pages to the public. So when you see any HTTP 500 level error, it gives you an insight into what happened that brought that error. And from what we shall soon see, you will see that the HTTP 500 error actually shoots down the whole case of INEC as having a glitch. It actually proves that INEC really rigged the election. Let's look at what HTTP 500 error says. This is 500 internal server error. What's the INEC referred to as HTTP 500 error? You have various errors under that 500 class of HTTP errors. You have HTTP 500, you have 501, you have 502, 503, 504, and 505. Now, of all of these, you see that if there was an issue with gateway, that is, there was no network, the error that would have been brought would have been error 502. So if they claim that there was a glitch and the Beavers could not communicate with the back end, the error that would have been given would have been error 502, which would have been bad gateway, or error 503, which would have been service unavailable. Those are the two errors that would have happened if the server was not available. But for it to give you error 501 of error 500 shows that the system has been tampered with. Error 503 would have been the error if the system was overloaded or if there was a network issue and the Beavers could not communicate with a back-end database application. That's the error that would have come. And if there was no internet, you could have also had error 502. Now, for you to have error 500, it means that the system was tampered with. And who are those that have access to tamper with the system? It is INEC. And considering that INEC actually has to work with the Electoral Act and its own guidelines that specifies and makes it mandatory for registration area collation to go on. The INEC collation officer must cite both the physical forms EC8A, the BVAS machine accreditation record, and compare it with what is on the IREV. And if there's a discrepancy, the collation officer, that's the INEC collation officer, should use the one on the IREV to take precedence. Because anything could have happened to the physical one. It could have been mutilated, it could have been changed, it could have been forged. But what was done at the polling unit and uploaded to the IREV is what the registration area collation officer would then fall back on, which takes precedence. So if INEC knew that this was a requirement according to the Electoral Act 2022 and according to their own INEC guideline, why did INEC proceed to collate results at the registration area, which is the ward level, when there was no upload of results on the IREV? There was no IREV copies for the collation officers to compare with the physical forms EC8A. And with all the shenanigans that happened at the ward level, at the registration area collation center, since there was no IREV copy majorly to fall back on, it means that there's substantial non-compliance with the whole guideline of INEC. INEC was supposed to fall back on the IREV. And as at the time of collation, on the evening or early morning of February 26, that's on Sunday, as at Sunday evening, there was practically nothing that has happened. Nothing has been uploaded to the IREV. As at Monday, which was February 27, you started seeing some results trickle in onto the IREV, which means for good 48 hours, nothing happened on the IREV. This is a great departure from the requirement or the stipulation of the Electoral Act 2022 and INEC's own guideline. And in fact, as at the point of collation of results, less than 40% of the presidential election results have been uploaded to the IREV. So you have about 70% not uploaded. If 70% are not uploaded, how did the INEC collation officers at the registration area level get the IREV copies that they used to compare with the physical copies and the BVAS machine that they used to collate the results at the registration area level, which is the ward level, which they know is a requirement? So you see, this whole HTTP 500 error, which they thought they would or they could hide behind, is actually shooting themselves in the leg, because the whole implication of the HTTP 500 error is that the system had been tampered with. So INEC must now come and tell Nigerians and tell the court. The court must not be deceived. The court must not be deceived with this whole HTTP error 500. They must not. The whole HTTP error 500 proves that the system was tampered with. And INEC must now come and tell Nigerians, not just the court now, who tampered with the back-end server of INEC on election day. Error 500 is not an error that happens on its own. If a system is working normally, if a system has been set up and is operating normally, you won't get error 500. Error 500 is a configurational change error. It only happens when there has been a change to the system. And INEC told us that they did a test, I think 2 weeks or a month before. And in that test, they confirmed that everything was running. In fact, even the director of IT confirmed that everything was okay and they were ready for the elections. So unless on the day, the day or the 9th of February 25, 2023, INEC engineers or INEC staff tampered with the system, we will not get error 500. You will not get HTTP error 500. So the fact that INEC is coming to say we had HTTP error 500 means that INEC was tampering with the system on election day. And that is how they rigged the election. And they went ahead knowing fully well that they need the IREV version to collate results at the registration area level. And knowing fully well that they did not have this IREV version, they still went ahead to collate results and announced a final result without complying with the Electoral Act and their own guideline. So which means that they deliberately tampered with the system so that they will get this HTTP error 500 and they will not be able to get figures on the IREV and then collated results manually without verifying it with the IREV like they said they should, like the Electoral Act said they should, and then it went on to announce a final winner. INEC just shot itself in the leg. This proves to the whole world that INEC rigged the election.